Count their legal warriors, 4 hours. 4 hours is the magic number that limits a police officer's discretion in certain circumstances, requiring them to arrest someone. If you're interested in this area of the law, stay tuned. This is the video for you. My name is Attorney Lance Fryrear. I'm a defense attorney in Lynnwood, Washington. My law firm's been defending people charged with crimes all throughout Washington State for more than 20 years. I'm putting out these videos to help educate the public. So if you find this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people will get the help they need. I'm just going to jump right into it. I mentioned it in the intro, 4 hours. That is a magic number. I don't know how they came up with in Washington State. It's going to require a police officer to arrest someone and take them to jail where they can't get out until a judge says so in certain circumstances in Washington State. What are those circumstances? Well, the circumstances are as follows. If it's a domestic violence crime and a police officer believes there is a primary aggressor, that some crime has happened, even a real minimal thing, like a pushing or I threw a beer in someone's face, even something where the officer might not want to arrest somebody. I mean, there's serious situations and not so serious. But our legislature here in Washington State has said, hey, police officer, if you believe that some crime, serious or not, has been committed and there's a primary aggressor, you can tell who's more at fault, and it happened within 4 hours of the time that you're figuring it out, you have to arrest someone. You cannot write them a ticket and charge them with the crime on your own and let them stay at home or tell them to go to a hotel for a night or tell them to go to a relative's house like you might want to do that might make sense for you since you're investigating it and it's your discretion. No, you can't have discretion. You've got to take the 83-year-old grandma who, pushed her grandson who's 23 and totally fine. 83-year-old grandma who's on oxygen has to go to jail. Right? Now, that's an extreme example, but that's what the law says, right? Doesn't that make a lot of sense? Some of us would say that officers should have discretion in certain circumstances to choose another way besides full custodial arrest to remedy the situation, but that is not the case. So what does this mean in real life? What it means in real life is many times someone will get hauled to jail and put in jail when the person who called the police didn't want that to happen. It happens all the time, especially in people that aren't from this country. I've done defense work for 20 plus years, and I've learned from having so many clients from different countries that certain countries, China, India, there's quite a few others, that when somebody calls the police over a minor, what they think is a minor family squabble, something that isn't serious in their mind, that the family police people come out and try to settle it, right? They want, you can't talk to me like that. You should calm down, things like that. But here in Washington State, what they learn is, hey, if the officer can turn it into a crime, and the criminal law is pretty broad, any unwanted touching, any imminent fear of harm, any threats, any type of property that got busted. I got mad and I kicked the plant. Well, the plant, that's damaged now, and it's half one spouse's and half the others. Well, someone's going to jail, even if it doesn't make sense. So just think about it. The officers, in my opinion, should have some discretion nowadays that they could, decide maybe I do cite a crime, but I don't have to take someone to jail and hold them for 3 days while they lose their job and have no access to their children while we're waiting 3 days for a judge to release them. So we understand why the law is like this. I think it's like this because in the past it was too far the other direction, that officers weren't protecting victims of domestic violence, and victims of domestic violence do need to be protected. But this is an educational video. I'm not taking a strong position one way or the other, but I want everybody to know out there in Washington State that if the police get involved, that in most circumstances, someone's going to jail. Not in all circumstances. In most circumstances, an officer could make a determination that no crime was committed, that it was a verbal only, that there was no threat, there was no unwanted touching, there's no property damage, things like that. And so it's not in every case. There's plenty of cases where it was just a verbal domestic and no one got arrested. But If it's within 4 hours, someone's getting arrested if the officer thinks there's a crime, because the officer has no choice. They could lose their job if they don't do it. So plenty of officers don't like this law. And I think it serves a purpose. Obviously, the legislature's taking away discretion, and a frustration with officers not making arrests would be my guess. I'm not peeked at the legislative history lately, but I just want you to know that that exists, because if you call the police, you're not going to be able to say, well, I just want them talked to. I don't want them arrested. That's not what's going to happen, at least in Washington State. More often than not, that's not what's going to happen. So if you're in a situation and your spouse or somebody or somebody calls the police and you're in a DV situation and you think they're trying to get you in trouble, realize if you stick around and you're just going to tell your story from that location, they're probably going to have to arrest you if they believe the other side. Some people leave and call in and tell their story on the phone, right? Some people never get their story told because they've been through the system and they know that if they stick around, there's a good chance they're going to jail and they might get fired the next day. So there's a lot of scenarios I could cover, and this again is never legal advice. This channel is always educational, but I just want you all to know that 4 hours is the magic number. If it's 4 hours and 1 minute, it's 4.5 hours, it's 5 hours. Now the officer has discretion. They still may choose to arrest and take someone to jail, but if it's more than 4 hours, now the officer somehow magically is empowered to have discretion if it's more than 4 hours. Somehow they think a lot less clearly at 3.5 hours than at 4.5 hours. So you can see it's arbitrary, and I just want you to know that it exists. So if you found this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people get to learn about the law in Washington State. And more importantly, if you have a legal problem, you need a criminal defense attorney, feel free to reach out to my firm. We've been doing this more than 20 years. We'll listen to what happened, we'll identify a way forward, and we will be there for you. Thank you.